Welcome to Your Business Success Podcast with your host, Hiroo, where she and her guests explore strategies of how to gain business mastery through growing your revenue as well as your personal time in order to develop a strong and sustainable business.
Well, hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Business Growth Mastery Show, where we showcase 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and subject experts who share their breakthroughs, their challenges, and their successes so that you too can emulate that in your own business. I'm absolutely delighted to have with us today Nathan Hirsch. Nathan is what you would call a serial entrepreneur, having founded his company Portlight in 2009 while still at university, and it continues to generate over 5 million in sales and ongoing. Now, I'm sure you will agree that's pretty impressive. Not content with this, in 2005, he co-founded and is CEO of FreeUp, a marketplace connecting businesses with the top 1% of freelancers in a whole array of areas, including eCommerce, digital marketing, web development, and much more. Now, those familiar with my show and the coaching program will be aware of the 3 pillars I advocate for business success as well as financial freedom. Firstly, having the right systems and processes in place so that you are able to concentrate your energies on revenue generating activities. Secondly, having the right mindset. And thirdly, taking action, concerted, determined action on a regular basis. So that's my mantra for success. And I see that Nathan is nodding in the right direction. So that's very, very good news. And the reason I'm particularly delighted to have Nathan on the show is not only are we going to explore his entrepreneurial journey, where you are going to hear from him about his successes and his challenges and what helped him to get where he is, but also we want to explore with him why we need to outsource from his perspective and why we need freelancers in our business. And as I said, that to me is where you can start to give up on some of those mundane tasks that you have to do, or whether that you don't have the skills for, so that you can concentrate your personal energies, as I said, on revenue generating activity, which as a business owner is fundamental to your role. We all know that when we start out, we are very much the cog in the wheel of our business. But quite soon, as we start to make inroads in our business, one of the things that I've noticed as I've coached numerous people is that those business owners start to become the clog in their business rather than the cog in their business. So that is why I'm really, really pleased to have Nathan with us today. So Nathan, a very, very warm welcome. Delighted to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Very, very happy to have you. So before we get into your entrepreneurial journey and FreeUp, why don't we kick off by you telling us first about yourself, your earliest memory of what you wanted to become when you were growing up, and whether you always had an entrepreneurial flair or whether it sort of crept up on you.
Sure. So my parents were both teachers when I was growing up. My dad taught at my high school, which was the town next to me, and my mom taught the kindergarten at the town next to me. And we weren't poor by any means, but we were middle class. So they were teachers. But the town that I went to school in, which wasn't my real town because my dad taught there, was full of wealthy families, doctors, lawyers, dentists. So all my friends had way more than me. I always wanted more. Money was always a factor. And I always knew that I didn't want to go down the normal path. I mean, my parents wanted me to get good grades in high school, get a scholarship, go to college, work for 30 years after that, retire. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted freedom. I want flexibility. I wanted financial gain. And so as a young person, I always tried to make money, and I failed over and over again. I tried building lemonade stands on my street, which wasn't a busy street, and that failed over and over again. I would try to open up different businesses selling baseball cards, whatever it was, and nothing really took off, obviously, because I was a kid, but I always had that passion. I always had that desire. And it wasn't until I was actually forced by my parents to get summer jobs that I actually learned about business and what it takes to be successful and the backstory of having great customer service and how that can really help grow your business. So I always wanted to do that. I always had that little rebellion inside of me, and I always had that desire to want something that all my friends had that I didn't.
So quite an unconventional route was what you were planning for. You really did not want to conform by all accounts. And what's interesting is that, like a lot of people who have success, what I really admire about your candidness is the fact that you didn't succeed straight away, but you didn't give up. You were willing to just plod at it till you were able to find something. So tell us, before we get into that something and how you started at university, tell us something and share with the audience something that they might not know about you.
Yeah, you asked me before, something that I haven't shared with anyone before. So I've never shared this before, but when I was a little kid, I was a huge nerd and I loved Pokemon, and I collected Pokemon cards, and I still probably know 120 out of the 150 Pokemon. I spent years of my life playing that game and collecting that card. So I've never shared that with anyone before.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I suspect that you're sitting on yet another mountain of money if you could sell those now. You know?
I actually lost all of them. I have no idea where they are.
I thought you were going to say you had this little pot that you were going to fall back on in years to come as a sort of little pot for your family to fall back on in years to come. But anyway, thank you for sharing that. So now let's explore the entrepreneurial journey. Talk us firstly through why Portlight? Why at that time? Why Portlight? I mean, you obviously had an entrepreneurial fair, but you also said that you had a lot of areas where you didn't succeed. So why then, and why did it work in your opinion?
Sure. So what I originally started doing, I was a broke college kid. I was looking for extra money like I always was. And I started buying and selling textbooks because I saw the school bookstore was ripping me off. I was paying hundreds of dollars for these books, selling them back for pennies on the dollar. And I thought, I can do this better. So I started advertising it, telling friends, created a little referral program. And before I knew it, I had lines out the door of people trying to sell me their books, to the point where I actually got a cease and desist letter from the college because I was taking so much of the bookstore's business. So,
oh dear. so successful that you were now becoming a pain.
Exactly. So that was the first time I had a little bit of success. And as you know, success is addicting. Yeah. And you don't sell books for very long without learning about Amazon. And this was back in 2008, 2009. Mm-hmm. Amazon was just becoming more than a bookstore. No one knew what it was. There were no courses. There were no gurus. And I thought being an Amazon seller was so cool. This is what I wanted to do. And I knew I couldn't sell books forever. I was going to graduate in a few years. I also thought we'd all be using tablets by now, but that hasn't exactly happened. But I started to experiment. That's what I do. So I tried to sell computer games and DVDs and sporting equipment, stuff that I was familiar with. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't sell anything. The only thing I could sell was books. And I just became frustrated and more frustrated. And it wasn't until I branched out of my comfort zone and found deals for baby products online that my business really started to take off. I came up with the idea for drop shipping years before I even knew it was called drop shipping. No one told me how to do it. The concept that I could sell something I didn't have and get it shipped from a supplier to the customer. Mm-hmm. So I started doing this with baby products, and I would spend hours every day listing these products. I would get weird looks. I'd be in the back of class listing these products. And before I knew it, I was running this $1 million a year Amazon baby product business as a single 20-year-old college guy. So that business took off. And as this grew and grew and grew, I realized I had to start hiring people, like a lot of entrepreneurs figure out. And that was really my first glimpse into the hiring world and the remote hiring world as well.
So your success, as I understand it from Portlight, was not necessarily diversification, but broadening your product base or your service base, in your case, product base, so that you were moving away. Did you actually give up on the books altogether, or did you just add the baby products as another line to your options?
We got rid of the books altogether.
Right. So you just moved the product proposition to a much bigger offering of baby products. Okay. So at this point, so you started at 19. At which stage did you switch to baby products? How many years on was that?
Within a year.
Oh, within a year. Okay. And when did you realize that it was starting to take off? When did you realize you couldn't, we get to a stage as business owners that things are going well and growth is happening on an exponential basis. And then suddenly we feel exceptionally overwhelmed. When did that happen for you? Because I guarantee it did happen for you, as it does for every one of us.
So I list these baby products, and within a day, I'm getting these orders, and I'm making $10 here, $20 there, and it starts to add up. And weeks go by, and I'm listing more products, and the average sales per day goes from 5 to 10 to 20 to 25, and all of a sudden, I'm making $500, $1,000 a week from this business. And I remember talking to my parents and telling them, hey, I have this awesome internship with the Firestone Corporation, but I don't really like going to it. I don't want to drive to work every day. I want to run this business. And they thought I was crazy. It was a great opportunity. I would have had a job lined up for me after college. And I essentially told them, I'm making more money working on my phone right now than I am driving in right now. So I'm going to take this risk and I'm going to drop it. And that's when I really knew this was serious. And I really knew that I had reached some level of success and that I was going to put all my energy into growing this.
Can I just ask, how did they react? I think I know how they reacted, but can I just ask for the purposes of the call, how did they react?
Yeah, so my parents are awesome. They are incredibly supportive. As long as I don't show up on their doorstep homeless without a place to live, they're happy. With that said, they're very risk adverse. They don't love taking risks. They love going through the normal course of life. You take advantage of opportunities, you get jobs, you work hard. So in their mind, I was taking a really big risk and I was kind of getting rid of this safety net and burning my bridges a little bit. So
Absolutely.
Tried to talk me out of a little bit, had me weigh the pros and cons and all that, but eventually they supported my decision.
So a good discussion was had. So you were lucky to have a sort of a backstop where people at least considered the strategies with you and helped you along that way. That's very helpful. Not everyone has that. And that's really, really helpful. Okay, so you mentioned a few minutes ago that you started to grow and then realized you needed staff, etc. Tell us about that turning point when you go from a one-man band to needing staff, because this is crucial to this outsourcing discussion. And then we'll talk about FreeUp.
Sure. So I get to the point where we're making a lot of money and it's time, I have to pay taxes, right? So I meet with an accountant for the first time. And the first question he asked me is, when are you going to start hiring people?
Yeah.
And I said, well, why would I do that? I'm making all this money. It's going into my pocket. I'm working 7 days a week. I love it. I'm having so much fun. No one can do this as well as I can. So I'm just going to do this forever, for the rest of my life. And he just laughed in my face. And he said, you're going to learn this lesson on your own. And so busy season comes around, the fourth quarter, and the holiday season when everyone's buying lots of baby products, lots of toys. And I was not prepared in any way. And I get crushed. I'm trying to balance school. I'm trying to balance a social life. I'm rushing a fraternity. Oh, and by the way, I'm getting 100 orders a day with emails and angry moms because their kids' presents aren't showing up on time. So I'm working 20 hours a day. I'm waking up at 5 a.m. I'm stressed out of my mind. 6 weeks go by and I survive it somehow, and the business is still intact and I made a good amount of money. But I get to January and I go to myself, okay, I can never let this happen again. I need help. And that was really my first step into hiring. But you also have to remember, I was a 21-year-old. It wasn't like I was going to go out and hire 35-year-old people with 10 years of marketing experience. I was going to hire college kids. And we all know how unreliable college kids are. And that's really when I was almost forced to look at the remote world, because that gave me access to all this talent from all over the place. Whereas if I had only hired internally, I would have been very restricted to just the college kids around me.
So real experience by baptism.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And not unfamiliar to most business owners. You know, we when we start out, we're moving in the right direction, as I said, and then we hit this wall where everything is caving in. And often it's because we're doing well. But, you know, you can only sustain that. Luckily for you, it was the hiatus of the sort of holiday period that helped you then at the end of that, presumably take breath. But for some people, that continues for some time, and it can ruin your business if you're not then, you know, following up and losing business in effect. So that leads us very nicely into, you started to look around. What did you find? What did you find when you were looking around for people to help you outsource your work, given you didn't have the experience as a 20-year-old to employ 35 plus, you know, experienced individuals, as you put it?
Yeah, so I actually hired some college kids, and my first hire went great. It's actually my business partner, Connor. We've been working together for 8 years. So I thought, wow, hiring is easy, right? And
right.
I proceeded to make bad hire after bad hire after bad hire. And it wasted my time, my energy, my money. And I did turn to outsourcing. I turned to the Upworks, the Fiverrs of the world. And I met some incredible people who still work with me today, but I learned so many great lessons. I mean, it's such a culture shock. I was talking to someone from the Philippines for the first time. I was trying to talk to a developer in India to build my software. And not only did I not know anything about development, but I knew nothing about his culture or how they worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, with me, I learned from experience. I learned from trial and error. I tend not to follow the gurus and follow the people that say, this is how you should do it. Sometimes I'll take bits and pieces and I apply it, but everything is real life. So what I tried to do was I asked these people for feedback. I said, Chicky Ann, who's one of my best virtual assistants, had her for a while. Why are people quitting on me? Why are people disappearing? Why am I not getting stuff done that I want to? I've done the training, I'm communicating. And I mean, she gave me brutally honest feedback about how I was talking to people, how I was interacting, how I was leading, how I was creating these training docs. So over time, I continued to improve my hiring process, my leadership skills, my management skills, to the point where I had this really great process. But now all of my time was being spent interviewing, hiring, posting jobs, instead of what I should have been doing, which was expansion, marketing, sales. So that's really when I came up with the idea of FreeUp, which was a marketplace where instead of browsing and posting jobs, we do all that for you. We get hundreds of applicants every week, take the top 1% and make them available to really make a faster way to get access to this talent.
Okay, so FreeUp effectively is the resource that you are providing for the customers and clients who want that additional help and want to outsource their activities, but without all the hassle of vetting people, narrowing them down, all the stuff that you've just referred to. So how quickly did you get customers into FreeUp? How quickly did that grow? Was that an instant success, a bit like your Portlight, or did you have to work at it?
So Portlight took off much faster than FreeUp, but I had been communicating with different Amazon sellers. I had talked to them. I knew that they had the exact same problems that I was having hiring these talent. So as I was talking to them, I basically said, hey, I have this Rolodex of virtual assistants that I'm not using them all full time, and I can provide them to you. Give them a chance. And I was fortunate enough that they gave me a chance. They trusted my word. And I did everything I could to make sure they had a good experience. And it didn't go perfectly. There were hiccups along the way, but I made it right. I got them new people. I gave them free hours, whatever it was. And then what I did, which was one of my best business decisions, is I created a referral program where you get 50 cents for every hour that we built to clients that you introduced to us forever. And that exploded the business. People that had a good experience, they wanted to tell everyone. They wanted to post it on Facebook. They wanted to get me on their podcast. They wanted that referral program because they knew that because I was taking such good care of them, I was going to make them look good and take good care of their clients as well. So once we got that into place and we got that initial client base, which took a good 6 months, then it really started to blossom, and it's been scaling ever since.
Perfect. So, there will be some people in the audience who will have tried outsourcing and will be sitting there thinking, yeah, but that was just a nightmare, a less than successful process, a bit like you've described. But, for you, you've been quite fortunate, Nathan. You found a way through it. But for a lot of people, they dip their toe in the water, it doesn't work, and they back off. And what I'm trying to get across is they're sitting there listening to this thinking, I've either hired the wrong person, or the final outcome was an absolute nightmare. I was up against the clock. I brought someone in. It didn't work. What would you say to people who have been through those experiences? And how can something like FreeUp help?
Yeah, so I talk to people like that every day. My calendar is right on the FreeUp website. And if you're listening and you want to talk to me, I want to hear about your past experiences. And I've had every good and bad hiring experience that you can imagine, from people quitting to doing poor work to billing me but not actually working. I had some twins that were billed me twice, but it was just one of them switching off. I've seen it all. So what I try to do is tell people, listen, I know you've had that bad experience, but you can't judge every person in the world based on that one experience. We've spent a lot of time vetting these people, and we have steps in place to protect you. So a lot of times it comes down to how you're vetting these people. Are you vetting them just for their skill? Or are you vetting them for their attitude and their communication as well? It also comes down to setting expectations and making sure you're on the same page right from the beginning, getting everything in writing, making sure that it's black and white. And then it even goes down to defining what your perfect person looks like, because even the best VA in the world isn't the best fit for every single client in the world. So once you stop focusing on the things that you can't control, because no one has a 100% hiring record, and focusing on what you can control and continue to improve that process, that's where you have the success. And I can provide the pre-vetted people, but if you don't know what to do with it after that, it doesn't do you much good.
Absolutely. It's as much about managing that relationship as it is finding them. So assume that we find the right person or people, depending on how many tasks we have. How do we manage that relationship? What, in your opinion, are the best strategies for managing the remote workers? All the things, all the nightmares that you've alluded to before, the time difference, the language difference, all the problems with communication that we seem to have. How do you advocate that we manage that relationship successfully?
Sure. So let's say that you define what you're looking to hire, you define what your perfect person looks like, you interview them for skill, attitude, and communication, or if you're using FreeUp, we've done that, but you interview them to make sure they're the right fit for you, and now you want to move forward. So before you do anything else, you have to set those expectations. And the expectations are, how long will it take? What kind of communication methods do I like? What are my pet peeves? Who on my team are you going to be talking to? Every little thing. And I even give people a chance to back out. If I set the expectations and they don't think that they can meet them, I want them to tell me, because I'd much rather just waste that little bit of time interviewing than waste months down the line.
Absolutely.
And I always get clients that come to me, they say, hey, I've been working with this freelancer for 3 months and it's not working out. What would you have done? And my response is, I don't let someone work for me for 3 months before I realize that they're not the right fit. I spend as much time as possible up front. So you set those expectations, you get it in writing, you make sure it's black and white. And then instead of giving them this huge project, you give them a test. Instead of giving them your whole website, you have them do a page. Instead of having them write a 20-page article, you have them write 3 paragraphs. And then what people forget is that feedback loop. You have to give feedback, because some people expect, oh, I'm going to hire someone, and the first thing they do is going to be 100% of what I want. And that's not realistic. Most likely, if they're good, it's going to be 92% of what you want, right? And what you have to do is differentiate, hey, what's good for that client might not be good for me. It might not be what I'm looking for. So here's some feedback. And you judge their ability to take that feedback. If they take it personally, I cut ties right away, because I don't work with people that can't take feedback. But if they do it, if they revise it and they get more on the same page, you continue that feedback loop. You give them a little bit more work. You give them a little bit more. You continue to provide feedback. You build that trust. You build that relationship. And then once you built that, then you can move on to bigger and bigger projects. So spending that extra time up front will save you countless hours, wasted energy, wasted money down the line. And I think that's what most people don't realize.
Very sound advice, if I may say. I've resonated with all those things, to be perfectly honest, over the years that I've been outsourcing. So let's explode some objections and do a quick fire of myth busting, because I think this is really important. People will be sitting there, some totally convinced, some still not convinced. So number one, I'm constantly hearing this. I don't need to outsource my activities, hire freelancers, as I'm too small a company. And I love, what I do. I love my business model. It's perfect for my small business. What would you say?
I mean, listen, you don't have to do anything. If you're an entrepreneur and you're comfortable with where you're at and you like doing it, who am I to tell you not to? But the point of the matter is, if you're not taking advantage of remote workers, of freelancers, your competition is. The gig economy is booming. Over 50% of the workforce is going to be remote in the next 10 years. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And at some point, you're going to hit a ceiling, whether it's today, tomorrow, a year from now.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to be able to get past that. So the sooner that you get into the mentality that you have to hire, the better. And yes, there are risks. There are risks. Business is full of risks. Every single part of business is taking a risk. And hiring is no different. But you know for a fact that at some point you're going to hit a ceiling if you don't take that risk. So you have to get into the mentality to do it. And one last thought on that. It's not like I woke up one day and just hired 20 people. It can be a gradual process. You can focus on getting, hey, how do I get 1 hour of my day back, 5 hours of my week back? Start small. That's one of the benefits of hiring these freelancers. You can use them part-time to crank out one-time projects. You can increase the hours over time, and trial and error. You have to play with it. And the only way that you're going to grow your business is by getting there. There are very few $5 million a year businesses that is just a one-man operation.
Okay. I'm too busy to employ freelancers.
That's kind of the oxymoron. So if you're really, you have to focus on where you're actually spending your time. Are you spending time on the $1,000 an hour jobs? Or are you spending time on the $5 an hour jobs?
Yep. If
you are spending 100% of your time on the sales, the marketing, the expansion, then that's where you have to be. But most entrepreneurs are not like that. They're spending time on day-to-day operations, on customer service, on things they probably shouldn't even be doing. They're not good at, like bookkeeping. I did bookkeeping way longer than I should have. So what I do is I come up with a 3-month rule. I don't do anything longer than 3 months without creating a system for it and taking it off my plate. So make sure that the majority of your time is spent on big picture stuff and expansion and not the small stuff. And that's where you should be busy.
Are you sure you don't want to come and work with Hiroo? Because that's my mantra. Okay, so I cannot afford regular sums of money for freelancers. I don't want to get locked in.
Yeah, and that might be true. If you are, let's say that you don't have a revenue stream, or you don't have proof of concept yet, or you're still trying stuff out. Yes, you probably shouldn't hire people. You should figure it out and get a revenue stream. But if you're making money, you have to reinvest that money back into the business. And one of the best ways to reinvest it is into people. And if you can't afford someone ongoing, I mean, think about it in terms of days. Can you afford someone 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day? And if you can't afford that, think of it as project-based. Hey, I need someone to redo my website. I need someone to make this infographic. I need someone to write this piece of marketing copy. Whatever it is, if you break it down into projects and, hey, I made $2,000 this week, let's invest $200 back into the business and hire someone to improve this small part of it, and the rest will go into my bank account. That's how you have to be thinking. How can I strategically reinvest no matter how small that investment is?
And one thing I want to pick up on in terms of what Nathan has just said, yes, all of it, which I completely agree with. But But not only are you investing in a freelancer to take a proportion of your business item away or workload away so that that frees up, but you are investing in yourself while you're doing that. So you're investing in the freelancer, but at the same time, you're investing in yourself because you have just freed up some time to invest back into your business. So whether you want to do some personal development for yourself, whether you want to, create a new program, whether you want to go and explore some joint venture possibilities, all that is possible because you have just invested in yourself and not just in the freelancer by going down that route. So remember, people, that it's a dual impact that's going to have. Okay, so thank you for that. Let's come back to yourself, because I think what I'm hearing, and I expected to hear, and I'm sure the listeners will feel, is that you very much are a doer. You get out there, you do it, and you persevere, and all of those things, and it's very, very commendable, and an asset, and a trait that we need to have if we're going to be successful. However, what I'd like to do is just describe some of the challenges that you've faced on your journey so far, because I've never believed that these people who say that I got from 0 to 5 million without a struggle, it's complete bullshit. Excuse my French. It never happens. So what I want you to describe is some of the challenges that you've had to overcome and some of the anxieties you've had to overcome, whether at the start or now or in between. Just share with us some of those challenges and anxieties of running a successful business.
Yeah. So Connor, my business partner, and I, we always say that everything happens for a reason. I mean, at this point, being an entrepreneur is just a lot of this, right? A lot of ups, a lot of downs. And
definitely,
when you're on top, you're always thinking, okay, I'm here, life is going well, but there's always something that's going to be a hiccup, no matter how big that hiccup is. And when you're on the bottom, your life's not over. You're going to be okay. We just have to problem solve and figure out how to get back up. So all that mentality really started back around year 1.5, where I had worked my butt off for a year and a half. I was making more money than a 21-year-old should. I finally had everything in place. I had this one supplier that I really loved working with. I put all my eggs in one basket. I just wanted to work with him and sell his product, and I was selling a lot. I finally made a good hire, and after so many bad hires, I invested 6 months into training this person to do everything: customer service, listing, orders. And so I finally can sleep better at night. The business is running without me. Life is good. Time to take my first vacation in a while. So I planned a trip to Myrtle Beach with my friends. And on the first day of the first trip, I get 3 phone calls.
Oops.
From my supplier telling me they no longer wanted to work with me anymore. So everything I had worked for, down the drain. Next, from my manager of the day, the person I invested all this time into, telling me that he wanted to quit and that he couldn't work for me anymore. His parents wanted him to focus on school and he was in college. And then just to top it off, I get a call from my accountant saying that someone had stolen my identity and filed a fake tax return in my name.
Ouch.
Yeah, all within a few hours. So I went from this unbelievable high to this bad low where I have to start over. I lost everything.
Wow.
I came back from the vacation and I did my normal problem solving. I gathered all the information. This is the manpower we have. This is how much money we have in our bank account. Then I created a plan. And what did I learn from this? So I learned, let's stop putting all our eggs in one basket. Let's get different manufacturers. So if one drops us, and it wouldn't be the last one that did, we had backup plans. If someone quit on us, it can't take us 6 months to train the next person. It has to take us a week. We need to departmentalize. One person for customer service, one person for orders, one person for listing products. And the identity thing, it was just a lot of paperwork and hassle, didn't really apply to the business. But we learned so much from doing that. We executed a plan to contact lots of suppliers, and within 6 months, and it was 6 very hard months of working, we were not only the same size that we were before, but we were more diverse. We were more protected. And that was probably the biggest low I've had. But now every time that a problem happens, I kind of think back to that story, because I know that with problem solving, you can get out of it, but you can also learn valuable lessons to put in place so that you don't make the same mistake over and over again. And I'm so happy I learned that lesson about diversification in year 2 than I did in year 6.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a very, very unfortunate holiday to go on in some ways. But as you say, you learnt lots. You were able to reflect on what worked, why it didn't work, and you were able to put it right. So, what's the most surprising thing you've learnt on your journey as an entrepreneur?
Surprising thing. So there's really a difference between a manager and a leader. And I think it took me a long time to figure that out. So I had a great internship at the Firestone Corporation, and they treated me great. I learned so much about customer service. But my manager there, he was not a leader. He was a manager. He was micromanaging every little thing.
We've all had one.
Yep. He didn't give people flexibility. He didn't give people room to grow. People didn't like him behind his back, even though he was a nice relative guy, but he wasn't a leader. And I learned from him. I had no other business experience. The only person that I'd ever worked under was him. So when I got into running my Amazon business, that's how I acted. I acted as a manager. I was tough. I was rigid. I was telling people what to do. I was talking down to people, and it worked. I made a good amount of money, but I couldn't grow that way. People would leave. There was too much turnover. No one would follow me. And my business partner, Connor, really pushed into my head that I had to change my mentality. And it took a lot of feedback. It took a lot of work. But over the years, I've developed more and more as a leader to where right now, 1,000 freelancers, they look up to me. They know I have their best interests at heart. They follow me instead of me pushing them. And the same thing on the client side. I have people that I help, that look at me as someone paving the way rather than someone that's just managing a lot of people. So there's a lot more into that, but that's really the biggest change that I've gone through and the biggest thing that I've learned.
What a lovely story about personal growth. You've actually seen yourself grow in that process by actually taking on board the deficits, if you like, in your, as you as an individual, and have really worked on that. And now you've got a very different form. And I could not agree with you more, the differences between a manager and a leader, And I think the point here to bear in mind, if you're listening to this, is that we may often have come from salaried employment. Nathan didn't, but, in the traditional sense of years before setting up his business. But many people will start off their business after they've been in salaried employment. And we will try and emulate those that have led us. And it's really important to stand back and differentiate yourself and try and differentiate between both the manager and leader role so that you too can learn the lessons that Nathan has learned along the way. Okay, 2 more before we wrap up. How do you deal? You've given us an insight slightly in this, but I want you to really think about how and respond to how you deal with real rejections, because this is a massive issue for people who are in business on their own or entrepreneurs. How do you deal with real rejection?
I don't think a day goes by that I don't get rejected. At this point, I don't harass people. I try not to spam people, but I don't give up. If I want to be on someone's podcast, they're going to hear from me every 3 months, every 6 months, until they either say, Nate, never contact me again, or they let me on their podcast. And I'm persistent. I'm a hustler, and that's what I do. But when I go through that, I know that if they let me on, I'm going to benefit everyone. I'm going to give people a resource with FreeUp. I hope that people find my content useful and that it helps their business. Obviously, it helps the freelancers. And we paid out $3 million for freelancers last year, which is not insignificant. It really helps them. And so I have good beliefs. I have good values at heart. And I really believe and I'm passionate about what we do. So when people reject me, in my mind, they don't understand. And that, again, I respect them. And if they're really not interested, I will let that go. But I don't give up. I will do everything possible to find a way to work together and try to help people. And that's just part of business. And
so a combination of things of self-belief, persistence, and having the right values and beliefs and making sure that they are resonating with the people that you're talking to, I guess, as well. Because having the right beliefs and values is great, but if it's not resonating with the person you're trying to convince, that's not going to work either. Okay, finally, your number 1 tip for listeners.
My number 1 tip is just go all out in whatever you're doing, whether it's a sporting event, whether you're still in school, whether you're working on your business. You don't want to wake up in 2 years and think, hey, I could have done more. So for me, I bring my A game every day. The people that I work with do the same thing, and that's really what you can do. And like I tell clients, I mean, I'm going to do everything possible to make sure you have a great experience and to fix anything wrong that happens and to continue to grow FreeUp and make it as best as I can be. And outside of that, there's going to be a lot of things that I can't control, and not everything's going to go perfect. And we're a startup, and mistakes are going to happen. But at the end of the day, that's really all that I can do. And if you do that with your business, you're open to trying new things and adjusting the market, you can have success.
Great tip. Thank you, Nathan. So as we approach the end of the interview, firstly, I want to highlight some fantastic takeaways for the audience from this conversation. There were so many, but I scribbled a few down as Nathan was talking. So the first one, and I would totally endorse that, both from my own experience and the 101 conversations as a coach that I have with business leaders around this outsourcing and freelancing issue, is start small. Nathan said, start small, small projects, small items, and test the market, test the individual. Great tip from Nathan. The second thing that is not just about outsourcing, it's a fantastic strategy, and that is about asking for feedback. You cannot go wrong in your business if you constantly are asking for feedback. I think the term you used, Nate, was ask for brutal feedback. Some people will ask for more feedback than or less than you have, but what's really important is ask for the feedback, but most importantly, act upon it, so that you get the outcomes. And linking to that, Nathan talked about the excellent customer service that he aspires to, which is what really has helped FreeUp to really expand, and no doubt Portlight as well previously. And then going back to specifically around the whole concept of outsourcing and using freelancers, the vetting process being really important, setting expectations, and being very clear about the person specification and their performance specification, and the feedback loop. Nathan, I hope I've captured in the feedback much of what you said today. Just wanted to give you a chance to say your last piece, but before you do, I want to just tell you that Nathan has very kindly agreed a gift for all listeners. He is offering a $25 credit, I should say, for FreeUp for anyone who wants to sign up, and you get that credit when you mention this podcast. There's one thing, Nathan, that we haven't explored. Am I right in thinking that you don't lock people into large contracts when they come to you for FreeUp?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, my calendar is right on the website and I'm very available. So if you're unsure and you have questions, book a time with me. I'd love to talk to you about your business. Second, there's no sign-up fee. There's no monthly fee. There's no minimums. You can stop using us at any time. It's in our best interest to get you freelancers you actually like, that help you grow your business and help you free up your time. And that's really what we're all about. And I mean, we're there to assist you along the way. We don't just throw a freelancer at you and say, go. We're there to help you as much or as little as you need.
So I particularly wanted to bring that up because I know a lot of people have been stung by people who are locked in to this. And Nathan, because of his values, etc., hasn't done a big selling number, though I didn't ask him not to. But I just wanted to bring that up, that this is a fantastic opportunity for you to go and explore FreeUp so that you can talk to Nathan about what your needs might be, however small or large, and not get locked in to any of those monthly or annual fees. Now, if you want to find out more about Nathan or FreeUp, you can do so at freeup.com. But please make sure you spell it correctly, because it's up.com. Is that correct, Nathan? freeup.com.
Yep, freeup.com with 3 E's.
3 E's, just to make life a little bit more complicated. They've gone for 3 E's, not 2. Okay, so that's freeup.com, where you can have a chance to speak to Nathan. As he says on his website, he will make time for you, but also if you can use your credit if you decide to pursue an opportunity with him to take on that freelance opportunity. So it just really want to give you, Nathan, a chance to say anything that you want to say before we wrap up.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for having me on, and anyone out there that is struggling or had bad hiring decisions in the past, you're not alone, and I want to help you any way that I can. Even if you don't use FreeUp, check out our blog, the freeup.com/blog. A lot of great tips on hiring, on outsourcing, on managing people. All that's right there for you. And I mean, I love learning, and I'm sure a lot of you out there do, and this stuff will really help you.
Perfect. Well, on that note, you have no excuse not to try out freelancing or outsourcing, because this almost seems like a risk-free option for you by going to Nathan, talking to him, and setting up a little project for yourself. So until next time, I wish you every success in your business.
Thank you for joining us on this week's podcast. Join us again next time when Hiroo and her guests will help you to understand how to gain business mastery so that you too can develop a strong and sustainable business. In the meantime, you can find more information at growyourbusinesssuccessfully.net.